I put InvestingPro's artificial intelligence, specifically the ProPicks feature you see here on the left, to the test for 6 months. I'm going to show you how it went for me during those 6 months, but first I want to explain how it works and how I developed this strategy. The first thing I should explain is that once you have an InvestingPro membership, which by the way, I've left a discount code for in the description in case you're interested, and remember, because this is something a lot of people mention to me, when calculating profitability, you always have to take the membership cost into account, obviously, because if we do make a profit, that cost will reduce any gains we might achieve. But it's always best to wait until it's on sale. In fact, right now in mid-February, there will be a promotion. If you're watching this video right now, you can still get it, or if not, wait for dates like Black Friday or Cyber Monday, those kinds of times when there are discounts across all platforms. Anyway, in this case, in this ProPicks section, you'll find the following: investment strategies for each country. In fact, I'm going to bring the screen a bit closer here so you can see. Look, here you can choose the country. These are the ones available at the moment. I'll scroll through them so you can see them little by little, but actually they're adding more and more all the time. In fact, there used to be fewer before. And what do these countries mean? Well, basically, it means that the investment strategy applies to the stock market of those countries, specifically, in this case, the United States. Personally, I chose one called Tech Titans, which is this one right here. This is one of the ones that has had the highest returns. Actually, there are two. This one as well, if anyone wants to try this one over here. This one has also had very good returns. Remember that the investing membership has two categories: Pro, which is the standard one, and Pro Plus. And to access this one, you need the highest subscription tier. But anyway, the one I tested, which in fact I'm also testing this other one now, and in the future I'll bring you information about it. But in this case, I tested the Tech Titans one. And how does this work? Well, first of all, it is important to note that these strategies are updated every single month. So once you have your active subscription, you can go into the Tech Titans section, for example, and you scroll down the page and this is what happens. Right here it says selection history. So what happens is that every single month, look, right on the first of each month, they release a brand new update where they tell you specifically these stocks will be included in the portfolio. And these other stocks will be removed from the portfolio entirely. And what was the strategy that I used, or how did I go about doing it? Well, I conducted some background research, and in this case, the people from investing told me that the core idea behind these portfolios is to choose a specific amount of money and then divide it among the number of stocks in the portfolio. For example, in this case, there are 15 stocks, and we know this here. If you look, it will always show up next to the name here, like the initials of this portfolio, but it will also show a number. For example, here 15 and here also 15. So there are 15 stocks in total. And what you do is take a certain amount of money. You say, for example, I want to invest $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. In my case, it was $2,250. And why is that? Because I decided that I was going to invest $150 in each stock. So let's open the calculator here, and basically we multiply $150 by the 15 stocks that the portfolio was going to have. So the total portfolio was going to have a value of $2,250. So now, keeping this amount in mind, that's what I started the portfolio with. But how do you get started and what should you keep in mind? Well, first of all, when you log into the platform, you'll see your current stocks in your portfolio here, which are these. But these are not the ones you have to invest in right away, because there may be some stocks, for example, that the portfolio recommended investing in 5 months ago. But since you're just starting out this month, it doesn't make sense to buy them now. They might still be able to make a profit for others, but you likely won't, simply because you didn't get in back when the portfolio originally suggested it. So how should you go about this? You should come here and go to the latest month or the month you are currently in and start as close as possible to the first of each month. That is, if you are already in February, you can wait until March if you want, until they release the March update, and what you'll do is simply follow the March strategy once it's released. Let's imagine you started with the February one. So what do? You're going to add all the ones that say add these over here, add, all of these here, and further down you'll see remove, which are these over here. But what happens? Since we're just now entering this portfolio, we won't have those actions yet. That's why this doesn't make sense. Instead, what we would do is move on to the next month, and little by little, we would catch up with the same portfolio. Because the next month, most likely this one here will no longer show up for you to add, but to remove. So, since you already have it, you remove it and add another one, and so on until you have the 15 stocks. This was the strategy I followed. It's not always the recommended approach, because remember that InvestingPro has a report here right next to each stock where it explains why they specifically chose that stock, and it gives you a full breakdown with the current data, a summary, the fair value of that stock, and several other things. And while the real idea is that you analyze each stock and say, I want to invest in this one, not in this one, yes in this one, not in this one, but with all the valuable information that the platform is already providing you. But in my case, what I wanted to do was simply not take any of this into account, but just follow what the portfolio said month by month. And now I'm going to show you here how the portfolio performed month by month. So I have it here in images to explain it to you in a very summarized way. But before anything else, remember that to do this, it's important that the broker you use, the investment platform you use, doesn't charge any buying or selling commissions, because this portfolio operates on a monthly basis. Today I might sell 5 different stock positions or buy 5 positions, and tomorrow I'm selling off 4 out of those 5 positions. That's why when buying and selling, if your broker or investment platform charges commissions, obviously a lot of your profit will be lost in this process if you have any at all. So it's better to use platforms. For example, in my case, one of the ones I recommend most is XTB, which works globally and is very useful because it doesn't charge much commission, or rather it doesn't charge any commission up to $100,000 or euros. Another one that could work is Interactive Brokers, which I'll also leave the link for in the description, but this one does have commissions, although they're very small. But if you like it and it gives you confidence, you can use this broker as well. I'll leave the links in the description below. Anyway, that was the first month. So how did it actually go? We started with $2,250 because we multiplied $150 by 15 stocks for the portfolio. Like I said, this was the platform I used, but you can use whichever one you want. The recommendation is to use one that doesn't have commissions. As I mentioned in the description, I'll try to leave links to several commission-free brokers so you can try them out. Then the following month, we immediately had a profit of $158.11. This was by doing exactly what I just told you. Basically, this month I put $150 into each of the stocks that the platform recommended. Then the following month, as I mentioned, we had this profit. This was in month number 2. So if you started, for example, in January, then in January you had these results, just as an example, and then in February you had these results. Then what happened next? In March, we also kept making profits, but not as much. And in fact, there was a drop, because what you have to keep in mind here, and I'm sure many people will want to comment on this, is that to use this strategy, it's better if I invest independently and I could get a much higher return. And that's true, but here we're not just testing profitability, we're also testing the effectiveness of not having to invest your time. Here, I didn't have to spend any of my time researching stocks or figuring out what to invest in. The portfolio simply told me what to do. The only thing I had to pay for was the investing subscription and of course the capital I'm investing with, but beyond that, nothing else. Once we had these results in the 3rd month, in the 4th month, unfortunately, there was a huge shakeup in the stock market. In fact, it shows the date here. On July 12th, we started the portfolio, and around that month there was a drop. But look, even with the drop, which is what I wanted to find out, we did not have any losses because we reached $2,374 when we started with $2,250. So this is really what I wanted to know, because surely you know that when the stock market is doing well, everyone does well. So anyone, even someone who knows absolutely nothing about the stock market, will get in and invest in any stock, and if the market is going up, obviously they're going to make money, and it will seem like they really knew what they were doing when they invested. But the real test comes when everything falls, and this month there was a pretty tough test, and even so we kept winning, so I thought that was really great. Now in the following month we recovered again, we went up to $2,423, which means we made gains, so we kept on, at no point were we actually losing. Last month you could have said that we were losing some amount of value, but remember that the loss doesn't become real until you actually withdraw the money, until you sell your shares or your positions. And in the last month, which was this one, we had a total return of, here you can see the 6 months. This was the platform I invested in, as I mentioned, which compares the portfolio with the S&P 500. In this specific case, over the 6 months we were actively investing. The S&P 500 index had a total return of 11.95%, while the portfolio we chose had a higher return of 17.26%, which means a total gain of $382.03 in those 6 months. At that point, if I were to execute the sale, I could possibly recover the cost of the investing subscription. So that's also pretty good. And what does this mean in terms of value? How much did we end up with after those 6 months? We ended up with $2,639. This strategy speaks very well for itself, especially since it outperformed the S&P 500 in 6 months, but I'll stick with it. I'll keep going for 1, 2, 3, and 5 years, and I'll bring you the full results after all that time. I'm not going to bring monthly updates because really from 1 month to the next there might be a loss, like this one from 2,463 to 2,374, but that doesn't tell us much since it's just from 1 month to another. But look, just the following month it already recovered. So the better idea is to do it annually or semi-annually to have more meaningful results. So I'm going to continue throughout this whole time, and later I'll bring you the same video, but after a year, after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, because honestly, I found it interesting and it's good to test it out. And I see that there are many people interested in this. So for me, during these 6 months, it was completely worth it. But as I said, 6 months isn't the time frame that gives us too much data. However, things went well for us. But what we really need to wait for is a year, 2 years, 3 years, or even more time. So let's wait, let's see how things go for us after this amount of time. And also remember that I don't just have the regular Pro subscription, but I also have the Pro Plus, which is this one here, and this one could potentially yield an even higher return. And let's see how it goes. This one in fact has 20 stocks in the portfolio. We'll see, maybe I'll bring this one up in a future video, but basically that's been everything. I hope you liked this video and found it useful. In the description, I'll leave you all the links and everything. If you made it to this point in the video, leave a little wallet emoji in the comment section. See you next time. Bye bye.